This is the workshop meeting of the Commonwealth Transportation Board. Today is October 15th. Start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Had a good meeting yesterday, and appreciate the opportunity to be with folks last night a little bit, have some dinner. I thought we had a great. So we'll see. We're going to pick up where we left off, which was item number 12, priority project recommendations, Mr. John Lawson. Deputy Lawson, how are you this morning? Great, welcome.
Beautiful morning in the Commonwealth.
And the Commonwealth, yes, sir.
Well, this morning, I want to present to you some projects for consideration for advancement within the 6-year improvement program. We have an opportunity today to advance a handful of projects or a number of projects to where we can see the benefits of the projects sooner rather than later. And we would be doing this with funds that are distributed outside of the Smart Scale formula process. We have a couple sources that I'll walk through so you understand where the funding is coming from that makes this possible. And then I'll talk through two lists of projects that we have given considerable thought and consideration to, working with the commissioner and the director and the governor as we have kind of considered where we want to go and what this suite of projects looks like as we move forward. So the funding, two sources of funding, and you've heard us talk about both, but neither a lot. The first being the Priority Transportation Fund. The Priority Transportation Fund was created several years ago, or many years ago now, initially to fund identified projects in the code in which it authorized the program. Over time, the program actually became focused on providing debt service on the capital project revenue bonds. The program, as of the changes in 2020, is supported by the formula. It gets 10.5% of the funds distributed to the Transportation Trust Fund. And as I mentioned now today, the first call of the funds in that program are the debt service on the capital project revenue bonds. These funds can be used for priority projects determined by the board, and in recent years, the residual amounts have been kind of directed towards the Transforming Rail project. Presently, in the program that the board adopted in June, there was almost $300 million in PTF funds available for commitment. As part of the legislation related to revenue performance and the Priority Transportation Fund, any excess revenue, which is defined as revenue above forecast, that is directed towards the Highway Maintenance and Operating Fund, the Construction Fund, and the Mass Transit Fund, shall be provided to the PTF. So as we closed out fiscal year 2025, that number was determined to be $103.5 million. So collectively, we've got about $400 million of PTF funds available. And I just will make a note there. In order to utilize these funds, a revised budget would be brought to you for action in advance of action on the funding the projects. second category of funds being Garvey bond proceeds. The Garveys, referred to, which stands for Grant Anticipation Revenue Vehicle Bonds, is a federal financing structure. The Garvey program in Virginia was actually started in 2011, so it's been in place for a long time. It is an evergreen program. It isn't a set amount of principal that you just utilize and then you're done. It's revolving. It's based on outstanding principal at any one given time, and the limit is $1.2 billion. We're just shy of 700 million today, so there's about 500 million available. The proceeds here can be used based on current budget language on basically the three key programs. The projects have to be eligible for, not funded through, but eligible for the Interstate Operation and Enhancement Program, and then the two programs allocated through Smart Scale, which is the High Priority Programs, High Priority Projects Program, and the District Grant Program. In the program that you adopted last June, we had a placeholder in there for about $300 million in the use of Garvey proceeds. What that means is we had planned and set aside the debt service requirement needed to support $300 million in issuances, but we did not allocate those monies to any projects.
Also, let me just say this is just a sort of an interesting fact. A lady named Jane Garvey, who's well known in transportation circles, and she was the first. She was the one who came up with this concept. Garvey, although it stands for Grant Anticipation. Factoid that it's kind of a salute to her, and she's a great. Garvey bonds, I think of Jane Garvey, it's not spelled that way, but that's why they named it that and came up with this acronym as a salute to her. So just a little bit of interest.
Very good, Mr. Secretary. Always good to put things in context.
Sorry, Commissioner said I wasn't able to be heard, and I understand that, so I apologize.
So
I think that was on purpose. Mr. Lawson moved my mic over. That Mr. Lawson, not this Mr. Lawson.
It wasn't this one. With the funding sources kind of laid out there, I want to move to the two groups of projects that we are bringing to you as recommendations for funding but as an addition to the 6-year improvement program. Again, we have spent months working through this list. Like I said, it was the secretary, the commissioner, the director, and we've had 3 or 4 meetings, I think, with the governor working through these and making sure we're comfortable with where we are headed. Oh, my count was short.
You missed a few.
The first group of projects we selected from the Smart Scale list. We took the high priority program projects that were submitted from round 6. We looked at what was funded, and then we looked down the list and picked a number of projects that we felt were of great value, even though they did not get funded. And these are those projects. The first one is a Route 17 Lee Highway Corridor Improvement Project in town of Warrenton. That particular project, if you look it up on the priority, on the HPP list, you'll see it listed as at $36 million or $33 million. However, that project did have a companion project that was valued at $13 million that was funded. So therefore, what we are recommending here is a $20 million project and funding it out of the PTF. The next one, Route 288 southbound hog running Shoulder Lane in Goochland County. That was a $77 million project. The ask in Smart Scale was 72. And in the discussion with the locality, they're bringing another $5 million to help advance this project. So what you see here is amount needed at $67 million.
Mr. Lawson, if I can jump in here, what Mr. Lawson is explaining here is, as the commissioner and the secretary's office and the governor were working on these projects, we engaged with the localities as well. And we said, listen, if we can bring some money, can you help us leverage it a little bit more than it's leveraged now? And in some cases, they were able to do that, and in other cases, in places, they didn't just have the funds. And so, but a bunch of our localities agreed to help leverage these. So the ask went down, and they partnered with us with more leverage, and so our money could go further, and we could get more done. So I want to just recognize that and make sure that you understand that we've been working with localities on this, with the governor's office on this, the commissioner and the secretary's office. And so we're pretty excited about the fact that we were able to spread our money a little bit further by getting partners to jump in and do more than they were going to do originally. And this is one there on the 288, and you'll see some more. Thank you, Ms. Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The next one on the list here is Prince William County Parkway corridor improvements. Again, a $27 million project with another local contribution of just over $5 million, bringing the request down to, or the need down to $21 million. The 395 Shirlington interchange project in Arlington and Alexandria, that one being a $32 million project. We are looking to fund that in its entirety, and we're recommending the use of Garvey bonds on that project. On the next project, the short pump area improvements in Henrico, that project was a massive project that was submitted in Smart Scale, a whole suite of improvements totaling over $370 million. And looking at that project and really understanding where the benefits were, and Commissioner was really instrumental on this one, we identified a segment, the Gayton Road diverging diamond component, that brought tremendous value. That project, when we looked at it, was considerably smaller. And when you leverage the $123 million that the locality was already providing, another $34 million would get that component done. And that's what we are recommending. And in discussion with the locality, they're committing to moving forward on the remaining portions of those improvements as well. So this will move forward a very important project in that area.
Let me sort of double down on that. This was a, Commissioner, 300, 250?
Well over 300 million.
Well over $300 million project with lots of pieces. And so what John just said is really important, which is with getting this started with this project, with some additional levers from the county, they've also agreed to advance the rest of it in a timely manner. So we're getting like, you know, we got them all in. They're all in now. We've helped them kick this off. They threw a little bit of extra money in, as you can see. But as importantly, or more importantly, the others are going to get advanced by them in a timely manner. So these are going to get done. And this is sort of the beginning of making that happen. And so it's not just the leverage in this particular project, but it's what that does to get the rest of that going, being advanced by the county and the locality. So that's really good stuff.
Mr. Secretary, if I might add to that, by advancing the project, the particular diverging diamond is noted on this proposal. It relieves the pressure on changes that would need to take place at exit 178, which is short pump. So advancing this one in this order really helps out really the interchange improvements that are being proposed is the suite of the 5 projects, as you mentioned. Working with the county, again, advancing those other 4 projects that all fit well within this. They've committed, as you said, in a timely manner. We'll still work that out with the county, what that means. John, there is a little bit of a note that they are leveraging 134 million or 132 million. So just want to put that out there that we've got 123 million shown in the commitment. They're leveraging 130, my memory's saying 134 million, so I apologize for that. One other note, there are some of the commitments by the localities that still need their board of supervisors approvals. So while it's stipulated for 288 hard shoulder running, their board is meeting today and having very similar conversations. So I just want to put, there is a little bit of contingency in this. So these conversations are happening in real time. So I don't want, in this case, Goochland to see that they have committed when it still takes their board to have a commitment, but they have identified those funds that they think that they can work with their board to be able to commit to the project.
I think the number is 132, not 123. I think it's just a trans, 132.3, not 123.2. That's what I think it is. I think we just transposed those last 2 digits. Mr. Minshew.
Hey, Mr. Secretary, is a diverging diamond interchange similar to what we have at Route 15 at 66, where the crossroad traffic flips over to get rid of the left turn movements?
Correct.
Sort of, you know, if you've never used one and you sort of look at it, it's like, wow, what is that? And then when you use it, it's like, oh, now I get it, right? It really works quite well. I've been on a number of them now, and but when you first saw it, when I asked the commissioner to draw me one on a piece of paper, yeah, that was interesting. And I'm like, how's that work? You know, but once you use them, it's like, they work pretty well, and they reduce crashes and all the safety stuff and increase flow. So it's a nice design and engineering thing that they do.
Kind of feels like you're driving in England for about 30 seconds.
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Lawson.
Commissioner, correct me if I'm wrong, but if my memory serves me, the diverging diamond concept kind of originated, or at least we had a big play in that
We're
concept.
taking credit for it. How about that? Commissioner will take credit for it.
I'll be silent on this one.
So moving down the list, the next one, the East Parham Road improvements. Again, a $15 million project with some additional funding anticipated, bringing the need down to a little over 10 to be funded at a PTF. There's a Port of Virginia-related project with Commerce Road in the city of Richmond, a $25.5 million project with leverage sum by the locality, bringing the need down to 16. And the last one on this list is a US 11 Main Street corridor improvements in the town of Abington, being an $18 million project. And with Abington bringing some money to the table here, bringing it down to just over $17 million.
And let me just say this, you know, as we've worked with our localities, the 750 number sort of pales when you look at 132 and this and that. 750 was a stretch for Abington. I mean, there's only so much money in that budget, right? And they came up with that, and that's a good number, I can tell you. And so we were pleased that they were able to partner with us and help our money go a little bit further. Yes, Ms. Dunlop.
Yes, Mr. Secretary, noting that very thing, I'm curious about the Arlington County and City of Alexandria project, which indicates no local component, and these are among the richest communities in America.
Well,
Perhaps that doesn't tell all the story.
That doesn't mean they don't have commitments, ma'am, and I'm not going to get into each and every one and all the conversations, but there's two entities involved there as well, not just one, and that complicates things. But we still think we should advance this project, and that's why it's on the list.
That used to be my interchange when I lived in Arlington, so
Well,
I'm
you're just a little late
well
to the
aware
party,
of the
man.
problem.
We're trying to get it, you left too early. We're trying to get it fixed for you.
So they, as you can see in the heading here, the total of this suite of projects is $218 million. Next group of projects are a list of projects that I would say are, I'll call them special, in that they are, many of them are larger dollar projects. They are, in some respects, I'll call them oddball projects. They are projects that typically would be funded, through probably other programs, but because of the impacts that they would have on the program that they fit in, it would make more sense in this case to fund them directly through the special funding sources versus kind of disrupt the programs that they fit within. And I mean, I'll just walk through them. The first one is the Falmouth Bridge in the city of Fredericksburg. That project, and the commissioner may have to help me here, but that project is currently slated to receive some major rehab work through the State of Good Repair Program. It's valued at about $86 million. But as we moved forward with the design and analysis of the bridge, we determined that some superstructure work is needed. And with considering really what we need to do, that project value, escalates to about $160 million.
So let me jump in here. So when we got into this project, we used too soft a word there, where we said superstructure replacement is recommended. It's required, okay? So as we got into this work, we thought we were just going to replace the deck and get it stable and pretty again. And we thought we could do some repair to the superstructure underneath the deck. And as we got into it, we determined that we were not correct. And we thought we could repair it, but it's not repairable. It doesn't make any sense to repair it. It makes sense, it needs to be replaced. That drastically increased the price, right? And that's what you're seeing here. And to try to fund this through the other regular programs would just crush the other people around the state. So we said, all right, it makes sense to sort of pull this out. It's a special case. It's an important bridge. It looks like a bridge was built during the Revolutionary War. It's an old bridge. But that's what happened there, right? So it is not recommended. It's pretty much required. We've got to do it. And we'll either do it this way or we'll disrupt the bridge program and other stuff to try to fund it. And we didn't want to do that, right? We want everybody to sort of stay even, everybody else around the Commonwealth. So this was important to do this.
Right, yeah, well said. This would completely disrupt the SGR program and take money from a lot of projects in order to be able to advance this one. The second one on the list is the Meadowville Road project, intersection with I-295. This project is in many ways addressing a bottleneck that's coming as that area in Chesterfield County expands. This project, the governor has publicly announced or requested that this board consider funding this project. The issue here is you've got 4-lane roadway on each side of the bridge, and that narrows down to 2 lanes. And what this project would do is to add an additional 2-lane bridge in order to carry 4 lanes all the way across the.
Like we saw the 81 stuff yesterday where we got 3 lanes to 2 lanes to 3 lanes, and so we're just fixing that problem. And this is where Lego is. This is where Plenty is. There's a commerce park out there that's rock and rolling, and there's going to be more coming. So Lego's not there, not fully built out yet. All of them are not fully built out, but they're all coming. And we know this is going to get messy, and it will continue to grow, and it needs to be dealt with. And so the governor actually was out there and had a bit of a press conference and said, we need to get this bridge done, and I'm directing this to a recommendation to the board to include this in the suite of projects. So that's what this is about. John?
All right. The next one are two improvements on Route 220. The Route 220 corridor in Henry County, as you may or may not be familiar with, is really focused from Route 58 down to the North Carolina line. That is an area that is ripe for development and growth, but the road is let's say, very curvy, windy, hilly, and less than attractive in terms of bringing in business. A corridor improvement program study was done on this that identified 5 segments to be improved. What we have done here is selected 2 components of what came out of that study for improvement or for advancement. The first is an intersection improvement at Route 87, which is a $35 million project. And then the segment 5, as it's identified in the program, which is basically ramp and intersection improvements with 58, which is a $55 million project.
Let me help you a little bit with this sort of geographically for those that aren't as familiar. So 220 goes from Martinsville to Greensboro, North Carolina. It's 42 miles to the Greensboro Airport from Martinsville, from the 220 interchange. Road is crummy, right? And the connection between North Carolina and Greensboro and Martinsville is an important connection. And it's 42 miles away, folks. That's like going from Norfolk to Williamsburg. That's what it's like. That's how far it is. It's pretty close. And so what we're trying to do is open that up and let prosperity flow between those 2 regions and let Martinsville get the benefit of that. And so this is not all going to be finished at once. We're pecking away at it, but it's a really important corridor for that part of Virginia. I know Linda's well familiar with that as well. But you just think about it, because when you think about Martinsville, it wasn't intuitive to me, or it wasn't clear to me without looking at it. It's 42 miles to Greensboro, to the airport. And when you when you use the same analogy I used before, that's Norfolk to Williamsburg. That's as far as it is. It needs to get improved, and this is a good start.
And this funding will get that process started. The next project is an I-81 project.
Let me jump in here. We went through the 81 projects yesterday, right? And we saw that whole plan. And if you remember, when we looked at the plan, somewhere it's here, those projects that were sort of in play last time and at the top of the list didn't score so well in the new scoring regime. And the S-curves were part of that cohort of projects that were left out of the 81 plan. So let me set it up that way, and then John, if you'll continue.
Yeah, well said, Mr. Secretary. The 81 S-curves project has been looked at for many years. It is a safety issue in that area that has been studied. And we've made some operational improvements that have helped, but the problem still exists. And the cost of the project, obviously because of the terrain, is quite expensive, even though it's a relatively short segment. But in order to advance that project and to address that safety need, we are recommending that project be advanced through the funding in this program, this selection here, partially with Garvey's and partially with priority transportation funds.
So also understand that where these curves are on 81, when we have accidents there, and we have a fair amount, because of the nature of the S-curves, the town that's located there is the outlet. It's Route 11? Route 11. And when that happens, we shut down the town. And we can't get EMS, we can't get fire, we can't get, the whole first responder thing is shut down. And it's really quite dangerous and scary for the folks there. And so it's not just the interstate itself, it's the impact it has on that surrounding community. And it's something that we've been talking about. It's been in the program, out of the program, in the program, out of the program in 81. But the governor looked at this and he said, we've got an opportunity to fix this. We know 81 can use some more love. 81's behind the curve, right? We're pumping and going as fast as we can there. It still's, very congested incident-based problem on 81, and this is one of those incident-based areas. So if we can knock this off, it's a huge win for that region and for the whole 81 corridor, and just adds to the opportunity that exists up and down that 325-mile corridor. This is an important one, a big one and an important one.
Mr. Secretary, members of the board, the last one on the project is a bit different. It's related to the Long Bridge project and the finance that's in part financed from debt that can be generated from the toll revenues from I-66 inside the Beltway. As part of the finance plan, that they were committed, to transforming rail. And what we have seen, as you have seen, I'm sure, interest rates have gone up, traffic is not quite what it was, and as a result, the debt that can be raised from those toll revenues has dropped. We were originally looking at about $600 million in debt service proceeds, bond proceeds, and what we're looking at now, based on the newer estimates, I will say, is a reduction of $96 million, providing about $504 million. What we are doing here today, while we're not obligated to address that shortfall, we have an opportunity to help mitigate that shortfall, and are recommending the allocation of $40 million to the Long Bridge project.
John, let me say this. We all understand the importance of the Long Bridge, and it's about freight, it's about passengers, both. And it is the choke point, and I got the opportunity to go over it the other day on an Amtrak train, but it's the choke point between the north and the south. And this $100 million shortage that we have at VPRA, they've done a heck of a job. What they did in Christiansburg with that project there that we rescued out of they've found ways to cut their budget and move monies around and deal with these things. And so I want to congratulate the chairman of the board over here and her team, DJ and others. Really try to found ways to make this work under some difficult circumstances. So they've got this shortage. This will help with fluidity in that network. We'll get the bridge built, but there's other pieces of the project that would not advance, that have a fairly significant impact, that would not advance timely. This will help them advance those timely and make that corridor work the way we want it to work. So really important for Virginia, but it's really important for the whole East Coast of the United States to get that thing to work right. And we've put a lot of time and money in it. It'd be a shame to sort of let it be halfway, not halfway, but let it be 80% instead of 100%. So the governor thinks that this is a good use of that money, and we'll push the project along and get this done.
Right. So that is the list of projects that are being recommended. And where do we go from here? One step we have to go through is some of these projects will require a public hearing. There is a code requirement that says projects valued in excess of $25 million have a public hearing within the construction district in which they reside. So we have to go through those and figure out which ones we need to have hearings on. The projects on the high priority program list are already covered because they were briefed as part of the Smart Scale, the fall meetings. but some of the ones on the second list, we will have to have some public hearings on. As I mentioned earlier, that the CTF and the VDOT budgets will need to be revised to include that additional $103 million for the PTF to make those funds available for allocation. And we'll look to come back to you next month to have the budget and the funding on these projects acted upon and approved. Mr. Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. So as Mr. Lawson said, we've spent a number of months, commissioners made lots of recommendations to our team and to the governor's office. I think we've had actually 7 meetings with the governor on this and sort of parsed through. We've worked with a lot of localities to try to get this money to go further, and I want to thank the ones that were able to help us do that. So this is a suite of projects that will advance transportation in Virginia in a significant way. And the governor and the commissioner and I all are in lockstep that this is a good expenditure from the boards, and we recommend that you approve it at our next. Questions? Mr. Mincha, and I'll come back to Ms. Sellers.
On the Long Bridge project, as I recall, that bridge is owned by the CSX Railroad. So I'm curious, when we invest in what is a private corporate asset.
We're building a new bridge,
It's a whole new bridge.
whole new bridge.
So it's not related to the CSX bridge component.
Related, but we own it.
Helpful.
Sellers.
Chairman, I just want to, thank you guys for putting the Falmouth Bridge on there. When you talk about deficient structures, when I was on FAMPO and on our PDC, that's one of the first memories I have of hearing something was structurally deficient. And when you go by the Falmouth Bridge.
That's a terrible phrase. We don't use that anymore.
It is, and it kind of
Because
sticks
it implies
with you.
something that's not true, right?
And it sticks with you, and the Falmouth Bridge is the Route 1 bridge that connects Stafford to the city of Fredericksburg. And the and for those, who've ever been to the former speaker's office there, the log cabin, it's right there, and it kind of overlooks the Falmouth Bridge.
We were up there, we were down there, or up there, I guess it is, 2 years ago,
Yeah.
when we looked at that bridge, and we're out there on the park, and
And it's just a very, very important bridge. There is not another bridge crossing the Rappahannock other than 95 to the west. So it pretty much connects Stafford, Spotsylvania, and the city of Fredericksburg, which is vital for economic development and opportunity and various things. So I do appreciate you guys putting it on there. And the region has been waiting for the Falmouth Bridge to be a priority of the states for a really long time. So we do
well, it's a
thank you.
really important project, and we're excited that the governor has advanced this to us for
And
consideration.
if we need a public hearing, we'll make sure folks come out. And thank you.
Mr. Laird.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I have come to appreciate the engineering profession by sitting with this group. And I have to say, in reference to the S-curve, that's a lot of money. But I honestly believe that it's a very important, I'm somewhat of a 81 aficionado. I travel it regularly. And that's the only spot that there must have been an engineer that had a racetrack fantasy.
And listen, if you're in a hot car and everybody's out of your way, it's fun to drive.
That's fine, but you're
But
next
that's
to a
not what it's
tractor
for.
trailer, not so much.
That's not so good when you're,
So I honestly think this is a very important thing to take care of.
thank you, Mr. Laird. Anybody else have a comment or question? Mr. Davis?
I appreciate the efforts on behalf of the Richmond District. There were several projects in here, so I'm glad to see those projects made it. And I do think some leverage along the way from the local entity here, probably CVTA, probably helped
Very
in that
important.
decision-making process.
Very
So
important.
that leverage is key. And so it's good to see those projects on the list. Thank you.
Appreciate the partnering. All right. All right, thank you, Mr. Lawson. Oh, yeah, excuse me.
Just
Mr.
one
Griffin.
question, Mr. Secretary.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so I don't really have a comment on any of the project selection. Congratulations on advancing these projects forward. A couple months ago, I mentioned it would be helpful as we incur new debt to do some type of math around that debt.
We're going to do that.
I was just curious as to how much interest we will pay on these Garvey bonds. I don't know if Mr. Lawson knows.
Yeah, the debt service on the additional bonds would be about 27 million a year.
For the 15 years?
The total, yeah, it's be like 405 million in total debt principal and interest to pay off the 300 million.
Mr. Griffin, what
dollars in
we're
debt.
going to do, based on our previous conversations, is we're going to bring back here to this board, probably in December, a presentation on how we deal with debt in the transportation budget. I will tell you that Virginia is a conservative state, and in terms of financial stewardship as it relates to transportation, particularly at VDOT and DRPT. That's the culture and the nature. And so we do this, we're not cavalier with debt, and we have limits and caps and general assemblies involved. But I think it would be beneficial to everybody to sort of see how we deal with debt in transportation. And we'll have a full presentation that'll discuss that. And sort of how you decide, is it the right thing to do? You know, debt has a cost, and not taking debt has a cost. You know, I'm not afraid of debt, I'm afraid of too much debt. That's what I'm afraid of. And so, and I think it'll be helpful, we'll bring back a good presentation and, you know, bring everybody up to speed. I think probably December would be our best.
That'd be very, very helpful, because as you and I have talked about, I mean, there's.
Absolutely.
Debt can be an incredibly useful tool, but if you lose track of what you're paying and the value you're getting for it, it could be
100%.
wasteful.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Mr. Secretary, I just, reiterate the comment earlier. The program already anticipates the issuance of that debt. So it's, the debt service required to, for that, it has already been planned for. So it doesn't impact the financial plan because it's already anticipated.
It's already in the
It's already baked
financial
in.
plan, it just wasn't allocated to a project. So in the budgets that we have approved, we've approved this in the plan. It just wasn't tagged as to where this money was going to go.
Right.
So we sort of have a regular cycle of reviewing where we are with our debt, and our CFO, Ms. Farmer, and the commissioner, recommend that we take some debt in this plan. And in this case, all this debt is already in the financial plan, so this won't impact the financial plan. What it will do is assign that debt to where we're going to use it. And so,
That's a little akin to saying I have, another 10,000 on my credit limit for my credit card. So yes, we have that capacity, but how we deploy that capacity is going to depend on the project that's selected. So just having the capacity doesn't mean like we don't need to pay attention to how it's
I
done.
wasn't suggesting that at all. What I'm suggesting is we have already decided to use that in our financing plan. We could decide to not use it in our financing plan tomorrow if we wanted to, but we've already decided to use it. That doesn't change what you're talking about whatsoever. It's just like we didn't say, hey, let's go get some debt and let's go do some projects. We have some debt that we've already authorized, if you will. Now, where's the best use of it? And it matters where it goes, to your point. So we'll see some more of that as we come to the presentation. All right, anyone else? Thank you, Mr.
Secretary,
Yes, sir, Dr. Smoot.
all of these projects, if approved, are not going to be done tomorrow. So I assume, like your confirmation, that the amounts budgeted have inflated the cost of these various projects to the time that you believe they might be done.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Now, it's always interesting when you do that because you're estimating, you're projecting, right? We think we've done it appropriately, and we work hard on that to make sure that we're not saying, let's spend $1 today, and a few years from now, it's $1.50, and we still only have $1. So, yes, sir, we've done that. All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Lawson.
Yep.
I think you're still on. The next item on the agenda is item number 14, the V-Trans Long-Term Risk and Opportunity Register and V-Trans Strategic Actions. Mr. Lawson is going to bring up Mr. Ramchandani from OIPI. And Ms. Lawson's to you, sir.
Thank you. This presentation is a follow-on from last month's presentation when we introduced this concept to you. What will be done today is Mr. Ramchandani, hopefully I got that close to right, we'll go through them again and identifying where we are recommending any changes to the board. You'll see there are some recommended deletions, some recommended additions as we go through here. So with that, I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm looking for,
The clicker.
yeah. Oh, there's a new clicker. Okay. So this VTrans is the state's transportation plan, and it has 4 major policies. Last month, or in September, we introduced the 2 components, which is the long-term risk and opportunity register and strategic actions. Today's presentation is, as Mr. Lawson said, builds on what was presented last month and provides some recommendations to what is already existing and was approved by the board in 2021. So the Code of Virginia requires that VTrans be submitted to the governor's office and the General Assembly every 4 years. The last submission was in December of 2021, so the next one is due in 2 months. And we are trying to wrap up this iteration of VTrans. And the 2 last components that you saw on the earlier slide are the long-term risk and opportunity register that help us meet one of the critical requirements, which says that the plan has to address 20-plus year planning horizon. So in this case, there are different approaches taken over the last 20 years, and this approach that was adopted by the board relies on identification of key global macro trends that are likely to impact Virginia's transportation system in a measurable manner over the next 20 years. Similarly, the board had adopted a set of strategic actions to address the impacts of the that are likely to be seen. So the current board policy, and this was all shared at the last month's meeting as well, so I will try to get through it pretty quickly, identified 4 mega trends and 10 macro trends. And the focus is, as you may recall, was the known unknowns, where we know the trend is on the horizon, but the impacts are uncertain. In other words, we are not trying to shoot for unknown unknowns where we do not know hypothetical cases and have no sense of the impacts that are likely to have. Each scenario that we have built around, due to the uncertainty of impacts, we have built 3 scenarios from low, medium, high, and to show the cumulative impacts that are likely to occur. At this point, the staff is not recommending any changes to the 4 mega trends and 10 macro trends that are shown on this slide. And just to go over it relatively quickly, the big boxes that you see are the sort of the categories. These are sort of global factors that are beyond the control of any particular state or a jurisdiction or an entity. So climate, technological advancements, consumption changes in consumption patterns, and social demographic changes. Now within that, there are these different macro trends which are important for a state transportation agency. So the flooding risk is one, automated vehicles, electric vehicles, shared mobility, such as Uber, Lyft, e-scooters and all. Change in consumption pattern. So at the last meeting, we had an opportunity to talk about the impacts of e-commerce and what it does to, what the impacts it has in the urbanized areas. Automation of production and services, so artificial intelligence that has emerged in the last, emerged in the public sphere in the last 2-3 years is included in there. Social demographic factors, which is the growth of professional services industry, as you may recall, Northern Virginia has a majority of professional services industry of Virginia. And that brings workplace flexibility. So those jobs are not necessarily tied to a location. And so the increase in workplace flexibility, we talked about at the last meeting, growth of the 65 cohort and the challenges it brings, and finally, the population and employment shifts overall. So just to reiterate, the staff is not recommending any changes to the trends that were identified in 2021. Based on the research that we have done, these are still relevant. There might be some on the horizon, but at this point, there are not, the staff is not recommending those. This particular slide is showing the impacts. So if you recall, last time we talked about we are interested in measuring the net impacts. So let's just assume that the 10 macro trends that you saw on the previous slides do not exist in 20 years. Every number on this slide will be 0, 0, 0. So in other words, we are not interested in measuring, what the population growth or the economic growth for Virginia on top of the macro trends you saw. We are only interested in seeing the delta caused by the 10 factors that you saw on the previous slide. So again, if those 10 factors, none of those 10 factors materialize over the next 20 years, everything, the net impact will be 0, 0, 0. That's a very simplified way of saying that. But here, what you see on the first column are the index matrices that are related to these. So you see vehicle miles traveled, shared mobility, safety, tailpipe emissions, and flooding. In the middle three columns, you're seeing in the bold, the revised impacts that we have calculated, and in parentheses in grade, what we had estimated back in 2021. And the desirability, the thumbs up, thumbs down, is basically indicating whether it's a good thing or not so good thing. So sometimes reduction is good. So I will start with something that is positive, which is safety index, the third row, right? Over there, with the estimates that we had last time indicated that we can estimate a reduction in crashes involving fatalities and serious injuries anywhere from 26% to 67%. That's a good thing, right? Reduction negative is good. Now, keep in mind that is crashes involving. That is not the total number of fatalities and injuries. So it's the crashes. The revised estimates will show a narrower range. And this is a general trend that you will see in the revised estimates, the estimates that we have done this year compared to 24 years ago, is that the range has shrunk a bit, which is a good thing. As you get closer to a date, you have more certainty, right? That brings in. So, for example, here in the safety index, the benefits are in the low and the medium scenario are projected to be higher than what we initially had thought. And the reason is that the deployment of technology, the general adoption of what is referred to as automated driving assistance systems. So the braking systems that you have in your car, the lane assist systems, all the bells and whistles, the rear parking when you're doing these. So the deployment of that by the industry has accelerated than what we had initially anticipated. On the other hand, in the high case scenario, automated vehicles have not materialized, or the benefits of fully automated vehicles, level 5, are not anticipated to be as quickly available as we had initially thought. So the high scenario is low, but the initial is higher. So that's just a read of one particular line. I will quickly go over the rest. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question, Mr. Chairman, on VMT. Help me understand, why is more VMT bad? I would think that the more people are traveling, the more commerce we have, the more activity there is, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad.
It's challenging for transportation. It's called capacity. Not that it's bad for society, but if we have more vehicle miles traveled on the same supply of roads, it gets more congestion, it does other things. So that's why it's challenging for transportation. Doesn't mean it's bad for society. It means,
So desirability being a thumbs down means it's not desirable because it would create more congestion?
yeah, or we need to build larger highways,
Okay.
right? So it's challenging for us. So yeah, your point is well taken, but from our lens, it creates challenge for us.
Oh, well, thank you.
And let me say something, it's a couple things that, as you go through this, Jitendra, which I think is, I'm digressing, but it's interesting to me. He talked about the automation piece, and it hasn't sort of gone as rapidly as some people thought. And listen, it's going to be clunky and hard to get to, but when it comes, it's going to be phenomenal. And I don't know if it's 30 years or 40 years. It's not 100 years, it's not 60 years. It'll happen, and you won't be driving your car, you just won't. But so that's going to come. And interestingly, in a very good way, and this hadn't happened yet, but I think it's getting ready to be that way, is that the Northern Virginia, which has been under this non-containment situation for air pollution, which creates needs for us to look at everything we do in transportation that might impact that. It looks like they're coming out of the non-containment zone, that they've improved enough to no longer have to be in that. It's going to be a process to get fully out of it, and I don't understand all the details, but the point is it's going in the right direction and good for Northern Virginia and the DC, Maryland region there, that they're making that progress, and it looks like they'll come out of that restriction, if you will. So that's good news. Jitendra.
So I will go through the remaining 4 lines. I started with the one in the middle, which was safety, and given that it's number 1 priority for the board, I started with that. Now, to go from the top to bottom for the remaining of the remainder of the items on this table, vehicle miles traveled index. The last time we anticipated or we estimated somewhere between 4 and 17% increase in vehicle miles traveled. Now, keep in mind, this increase is not, vehicle miles traveled can increase due to multiple reasons. Economic activity is one, but here we are measuring the impacts of only the 10 macro trends. So everything else remains the same. These trends themselves are driving the change in vehicle miles travel. It's not that necessarily the economic activity has increased, right? So
Let me give you an example. E-commerce, right? So before people would decide, let me rephrase that. Some people would decide not to go to the store every day, right? They'd go once a week, or they'd go every 2 weeks. Now, they pick up the phone and they call somebody and they bring it to their house every day, all day long, and many vehicles traveling around. So the amount of vehicles miles traveled, well, you were getting in your station wagon classic, going to the store and getting your stuff for a week or 2 weeks and have one trip or so. Now the Amazon van's coming and the UPS and FedEx and everybody's coming to your house. At least at my house, that's what happens. And the packages are there on the front step every day. And that's generating vehicle miles traveled. More vehicles out there going more miles. And that's the sort of impact of e-commerce, which is the macro trend on VMT. And that's what Jitendra's telling you. Oh, boy. We're in recess. Thank you for your patience. Mr. Ramchandani, welcome back. Let's talk about ups and downs, right? I think we're down in safety again.
Yeah, good morning again. So just picking up where we left off, so we were trying to go through the impacts of 10 macro trends on Virginia's transportation system, and more specifically on the 5 categories that you see on the leftmost column. And I will now start from the top after having gone through safety. So the VMT, Vehicle Mile Travel Index, it is essentially measuring all these 10 macro trends by themselves, how they will increase vehicle mile travel. We do not have enough information to say whether automated vehicles will improve congestion, decrease congestion, but the available research does show that at least for now, we can estimate that there will be an increase in estimated miles traveled only due to these macro trends. So in the 2021, the grade parentheses, number in gray color font in parentheses, we had estimated that range will be somewhere between 4 and 17% increase. So for every 100-mile traveled, in the worst case scenario, 17 miles extra will be driven. And that adds up pretty quickly, right? Keep in mind that we don't know the impacts of these technologies on congestion, travel time reliability. In the revised estimates in 2025, the numbers have gone down and the range has become a bit tighter. So it's from 1 to 9%, and it is primarily driven by the fact that the level 4, level 5 deployment is not as anticipated to be as quick as we had initially thought in 2021. Level 5 especially is considerably slowed down. Right now, not many manufacturers are referring to level 5, which is a vehicle that is driving by itself in under all conditions. Level 4, which is what Waymo, Google services, for example, does. Just for background, what the industry sources have shared, that even in that case, it's not completely driverless. On an average, there is a person, and they have gotten the number down to 0.86 per person that is sort of monitoring a Waymo driver. So it's not completely driverless in the sense that there is someone monitoring. It is less than 1%, and its capabilities in all conditions are still unknown. But it is coming. It is much more prevalent than the level 5 that we had anticipated back then. Secretary?
So Jitendra, the group has not really had the benefit of lots of understanding of the levels of automation. Right, so they're a little bit without context.
Okay.
And so and let me just say a couple things. In the automation world, in the vehicle automation world, there are 5 levels that are sort of set out that we're getting to. And level 5 will be nirvana, if you will, when you just summon the vehicle, you get in it, and you tell it where you want to go, and it takes you there. And that's like level 5. Level 4 is still some driver intervention. Level 3 is sort of where we are today with the braking systems and the shaking systems and the adaptive cruise controls and all those things that assist us. So you'll have more about that in later meetings. You'll understand more about this. But when Jitendra's talking about levels 4 and 5 and, what does all that mean? That's what it means. I will also tell you that the General Assembly has directed me to start a study group or a working group, which we've done. And we've had one meeting. We'll move next month, I think, or maybe later this month for additional meetings. And we're working with stakeholders to understand what we need to do in the code and with regulation and working with our partners to make sure we're ready as this comes at us. And so I've convened that group, working with all the interested stakeholders, and we'll work through that, and the next secretary will work through that in the coming years as well. But this is coming. We're getting ready for it. That's what Jitendra's talking about with level 4 and 5. And we're not there yet. We're at level 3 still, but we're inching towards 4. And there's some 4s out there. It's just not, Waymo is driving around the city of D.C. and delivering stuff, and there's nobody in the car. It's fully there, but it's not in Virginia yet. Okay, Jitendra.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So levels 4 or 5, the range has narrowed down. The next one up is shared mobility. So that's a term that is used for all the services that you use. For example, for all the vehicles that you travel on that are not owned by you. So for example, Uber, Lyft, scooters that you see on the city streets, and e-bikes. So this metric is trying to estimate how many personal single occupancy vehicles miles can be replaced by these technologies in urbanized areas, because we don't have enough information about these in rural areas where there is. So in urbanized areas, so last time round, we estimated that 9 to 27%, very high estimate if you see.
Bender,
Yes,
we
sir.
can't spend a half an hour on this slide.
Okay,
Okay, we need to move through it.
okay. Can be replaced, whereas this time round, we are estimating between 1 and 7%. We have already gone through safety index. Tailpipe emissions is the similar thing. Negative numbers are desirable because it's a reduction. And this time around, we are anticipating higher than previously thought, low and medium, because electric vehicle adoption has been on the low estimate side higher than we initially thought. But on the higher end, it is much slower because the policy changes. And the flooding risk, which is the flooding due to sea level rise, storm surge, and then riverine flooding, has changed. The numbers are so large that it's very hard to get your head around, wrap your head around that. But generally, they are in that vicinity as well. So those are the impacts. And one of the things that it comes with it for a policy board is that these, we call them estimates. And the reason is that policy changes at the federal, state, and at the board level can impact how much we can benefit from it or how much risk exists for all of these. Last time around, we had shared what the risk register, opportunity register that was prepared in 2021. And this time around, we are bringing updates to you all. So the icon is on the left, and then the nature, which is a little triangle caution sign, is a risk, and a bright yellow or sun-shaped icon is an opportunity. So at this time, the staff is not recommending any changes to risks and opportunities that are listed for the flooding risk. They are still relevant in staff's opinion. The staff is recommending 3 changes on this slide that are shown on the slides. First, for the wear and tear of the system, electric vehicles are no longer as big of a challenge as we initially thought, and simply because the adoption of trucks that cause majority of the wear and tear of the pavement, electric trucks are much slower adoption than we initially estimated. The staff is recommending.
It'd be really interesting to know, and I don't know how to exactly get that, but it'd be really interesting to know the difference between the 10,000 times that we say a truck has an impact on a road versus electric truck on the road. And it's not going to be a step function factor, I don't think, but it will be more because the load in the back is the load in the back. So the batteries are just going to be associated with the tractor, if you will, but it's still going to be significant additional weight. So
Not on the wear and tear of the road, but as we're adopting more electric vehicles, the impact it's having on gas tax revenue.
yeah, we understand that.
And are we tracking that?
Yes,
And-
ma'am.
Okay.
That's why we have our our system is being looked at by other people, our process being by other people in the country, as we've adopted these policies that make folks that have highly efficient vehicles pay a tax at registration that would emulate what they would pay if they had a regular vehicle. We have a system in place that does that. We track it all the time. See where it is. But DMV, if you have a highly efficient vehicle, including an electric vehicle, your registration cost is higher than a less efficient vehicle, with the concept that you're not paying the gas taxes and you have to pay some taxes to put the road that you're driving. Funds that go to transportation from those vehicles, similar to the funds that go from less efficient vehicles, because the efficiency has no impact per se on the road. Have that, yes, ma'am. Mr. Coleman.
Secretary, in my world, and I
Mileage-based
think,
user, it's called mileage-based user fee. And Virginia's a leader in that. Yes, sir, Mr. Coleman.
I think in my world and in Randy's world, the trucks, if they go to electric and have heavier batteries, this weight limit's still the same. So it just means that the person who hires the truck is going to be able to put less freight in the back of the trailer.
If you're exceeding the limit, yes, sir.
Right. So I just thought I'd make that statement.
Andrew?
One thing I should have mentioned is wherever a change is proposed, the rationale is included in parentheses in gray color font, so you can read in more detail. Staff is recommending removal of number 7, and simply because, as listed in the rationale, VDOT has completed a strategic action, and then the deployment time period for highly autonomous vehicle level 5, as Secretary mentioned earlier, has been pushed out. And then the staff is recommending growth of e-commerce, adding that as a contributing macro trend for the higher VMT. On the slide, I will not go through all the bullets that were presented last time around, but compared to 2021, the staff is recommending removal of number 15, which was related to high number of shared mobility vehicles. As you saw on one of the earlier slides, we actually did a survey in 2022 of Virginia residents, and it turned out the usage numbers in Virginia are much lower than what we had previously anticipated. In addition to that, one of the strategic actions is underway, and that will address that risk as well. So that's why the staff is recommending removal. And finally, on the next slide, the staff is recommending 3 changes related to risks and opportunities, number 17, 18, and 19. The rationale is included in parentheses, but just as some of these items are. Number 19 is a clarification, not a removal. It is to essentially clarify the intent of what the issue is. Number 19, as written from 2021, wasn't clear enough. So here it says now, due to the higher life expectancy and higher growth of the population cohort in rural areas, there is a greater need for mobility options across the state. And as some of you may recall, last time around there was a considerable discussion in rural areas where there are limited mobility options being in the most vulnerable situation. So that was the long-term risk and opportunity register. This 2021 policy also has a number of trackers that allow us to track the trends that we shared earlier. Those trackers, the staff is recommending 3 minor changes. So for example, the number of jobs in goods movement dependent industries for e-commerce at the very bottom is no longer relevant because of the highly automated systems that exist. Robotics has taken over, so number of jobs is no longer a very good indicator to see whether the industry or trend is moving in the direction. And then for highly automation of goods and services at the very top, the staff has found 2 more reliable sources that are provided by census, one of the census surveys, and we are proposing replacement with those 2. Other than that, there are no changes to how we track these macro trends. So finally, if you recall, there are 4 columns in VTrans, 4 major policies. We talked about the number 3. Number 4 is strategic action. So once the board has gone through the vision, goals, and objectives, has gone through the midterm needs and how we identify needs for smart scale and other programs, and has identified long-term risks and opportunities, what do we do about those? So these are sort of the strategic actions that can and should be adopted, or the intent is it should be incorporated by the agencies to ensure that we are all moving in the same direction. The staff recommendation is to provide an annual update on the strategic actions that are being presented to you. So you will receive an update in the coming months as well. So there are actions, that 2021 actions in the leftmost column. The responsible entity is showing in the column next to it. And the right to most two rightmost columns are focusing on the current status and the rec staff recommendation. So without getting into all the details, and I may have to, if there are more detailed questions, I may have to rely on Deputy Chief Commissioner Kathy McGee or the Commissioner himself for status of items that are under VDOT's purview, and similarly on the Chief of Public Transportation and Director Robinson for items that are under DRPT's purview. But number one item was, action number one was collect data, and VDOT has developed a resiliency plan to collect that data, and the staff is recommending removal because it's an ongoing task, and there is already a plan in place. The number 2 and 3 are underway or ongoing tasks, and they are important enough that staff is recommending retaining both. The number 4, 5, and 6, 4 and 5 are complete, and the staff is recommending removal. They are related to the technology megatrend. So, for example, related to how we evaluate and collect data related to automated vehicles. Number 6 is underway, and the staff is recommending retaining that. Again, I will not go through all of these because we had gone through the actions themselves last time, and just in the interest of time, I will try to get through them relatively quickly, but please stop me if there is a question. Number 7, 8, and 9 that are related to technology megatrend, again, all 3 are recommended for retention by staff because they all are underway and the work is being done on those. The next 3 are related to how we identify and address transportation needs. Number 10 is related to IOPs, and it is recommended for deletion because it is complete. So is number 12. For the project pipeline, my colleague Chad Tucker gave you a presentation related to studies for project pipeline in different construction districts, so that is complete as well. And number 11 is ongoing, and my colleague Margie Ray may have some presentations in the coming months on that as well.
Folks, this was on our agenda, item 16, but it's not ready yet, so we're not going to brief that today. But this follow-up of smart scale merit and sort of what we expected versus what happened is important, and we'll that through the various rounds that we've had. And the concept obviously is to have a feedback loop to inform you as you look at the smart scale program going forward in terms of any adjustments you make. We will bring that presentation back, but it wasn't ready in my view for you yet. And so we'll defer that.
Yeah. Number 13 and 14 are related to how the guiding principles that the board has established, how we do conduct business. So they are related to dashboards and how applications are collected from different entities. They both are complete in the sense that evaluation has been found complete, and in both instances, it was not found feasible. So staff is recommending removal. Number 15 and 16 are much broader in context, and both have been initiated, and the staff is recommending retaining both of those, and they are related to the overall monitoring of the long-term risk and opportunity register. So with that, we have gone through pretty much all pieces that are 4 major policies that are included in VTrans. Today, we focused on the long-term risk and opportunity register and the strategic actions. The 2 remaining pieces, the board has already taken action on the first 2 columns that you saw on the second slide. With that, our intent is to bring the proposed changes that were shown to you today for action next month. And so we will also bring the modifications to the 2021 strategic actions as presented with recommendations to you for action at the December meeting. And one of the items at the December meeting we plan to bring is guidance to OIP to submit the plan to the General Assembly and the Governor's Office, because the code requires that the board develops this plan OIP is essentially working as a staff to you all. So that will be the formal submission that will be given to the governor's office and the General Assembly. With that, I will turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Really good work, sir. I appreciate it so much, and it's important that it guides us properly as we move forward with our policies and our mission. Any questions or comments? Thank you, sir.
I have a
Yes, Ms.
comment.
Sellers.
I do struggle with this one because not just that it's very.
Which one?
I really struggle with the long-term risk and opportunity stuff because I would expect to see more of the local governments included in here and given expected to provide some of the documents, like their comprehensive plans. And we're just not seeing that. So a lot of it's being put on DRPT and VDOT when local governments are supposed to, under the state code, be well. And I'm just not seeing that. And I am curious why we're not including the comprehensive plans. And not saying, I'm not suggesting that we just make just put them all together and then say, here's the state plan. But the comprehensive plans have to address flooding issues in the locality. It addresses transportation needs in the locality. It addresses future growth. So all of these things could be coming from them as well, and we're just not seeing that. So I'm really struggling with this whole, I think we're missing some things here because we're not including the local governments. And we could see a 20-year forecast differently that's based on actual data that the localities have. But
Mr. Chair, Ms. Sellers, so I think that is included. In fact, the travel demand models that VDOT develops are based on the comprehensive plans that are developed by locality. So if the locality says we are going to redevelop this subdivision and it is going to be townhouses instead of single acre, acre lots, those changes are reflected in the travel demand models and are included in all the numbers that you see. So for example, smart scale numbers that are brought to you are based on those travel demand models, forecast from this travel demand model. What those models do not include is what the focus is here. Those travel demand models are based on what we know. Again, the focus here is on known unknown, right? Those are focusing more on known knowns, where we know the growth is coming and their impacts are, we can estimate, right? We know the trip that are generated by a single family residential unit as opposed to a townhouse. Whereas this risk and opportunity register is focusing on known unknowns, factors that are beyond the state government's control, that are global in nature, that no state government, or for that matter, any particular country, cannot govern, for example, how quickly automated vehicles are deployed. They will be here. So the focus is more on what the known unknowns, whereas what you're referring to, I would think that VDOT is already addressing that in the form of known knowns.
well, not all of them are going to be known. So you will have a comprehensive plan. And, when you say about the changing of the use, that seems more immediate to me. But a comprehensive plan will cover the whole locality and it looks out. And so we don't know when the development's going to come. Sometimes you do. So if you have an end user like a Kalahari who brings you a reclassification, then yes, you have an expected timeline. But there's lots of land in these land use documents that is zoned, that is currently zoned one way, but then on their comprehensive plan, they say, we would love to see growth here. And that is nowhere in any of the documents, even on the database where you go and look at UDAs. There's a huge disconnect between what we're seeing in the localities and what's in these databases, which implies to me that the data sets are not matching. And I can look at it and show you Stafford County in there. There's 5 areas that are identified in the OIP database, but those are not where the growth is going to be happening in Stafford. That's capturing something totally different. And so, to me, we're missing the mark on the long range by being global when we could and should be starting here in Virginia and looking at these land use documents and saying, where are they looking at growth? And then in the more short term, seeing Where are we seeing reclassifications? Where are we seeing permits pulled? Because those are also different processes that tell me something is more immediately about to happen. That's just not in the V-Trans or the statewide. And, you know, when you read the code, that I do think that it's supposed to be there, and it's just not.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Sellers, so I think there are different approaches to how this policy document is prepared. I think that what you're questioning is, what you're describing is, I think everything that is included and done in the travel demand modeling world. I used to be a travel demand modeler early in my career, so I can relate to some of the items that you're mentioning. Travel demand models will not be able to forecast, as you correctly pointing out, where there might be a change. So, for example, something is agricultural land in Rappahannock County, and it might become a data center if the county chooses to do so and goes through the process. That is definitely not included, but the land use as it currently is, it is typically included in travel demand models, to your point. And anytime there is a change, those updates do go through the travel demand models and are updated. Whereas the other point that you're mentioning about the code requirements, the code is very interesting in the sense that it does say, and I think it is the only code reference that I can recall where it says, V-Trans will not be a collection of local, district, regional, or modal plans. So in other words, it cannot be an aggregation of anything that locality has developed, anything that VDOT and DRPT develop, and it is explicitly mentioned in the code.
But it's explicit to the transportation plan in the CUP, or in the comp plans. It's not the comp plans in general. If I remember the code, it's specific to, my reading of it, is the General Assembly did not want this to become a listing of what localities have identified as their transportation needs in their comp plan. However, you do want to know, okay, what's the future guidance provided to the development community, the business community, of where things are going, so that you can start to plan for it long-term. And again, those are going to be 20, and some of them are different. Just looking through the Fredericksburg district, I have pulled them for my district, and you know what King George does looks different than what Gloucester does, looks different than what Stafford does. So those are long-term things. That's not saying these are the needs. If you want to know the immediate needs, then you have to pull in the capital improvement program, and which is a totally different conversation. But so,
Ms. Sellers,
yes.
we're going to take this offline, as we're asked and answered. We'll be happy to bring you in and have more discussion and see if we can get it better.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Great, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is item number 15, V-Trans Performance Measures Reporting. Ms. Margie Ray and Mr. John Lawson. Welcome back, Mr. Lawson. Welcome. Good morning, Ms. Ray. Hope you're well.
Thank you. Today, coming back with another component, V-Trans related. As we've talked over the last couple of years, we've gone through and we've looked at the vision, goals, objectives, and we defined a series of measures in order to be able to say whether or not the objectives are being met. And what we're going to do today, Ms. Ray is going to walk through the measures that were adopted in April associated with the goals and objectives.
I was about to sign in. There we
In
go.
order to give you a feel for how we are doing in those areas. Ms. Ray?
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. We were having a conversation earlier about it'd be nice if you could lower the podium for some of us. Good morning, Mr. Secretary, members of the board. Margie Ray with Office of Intermodal Planning and Investment. John queued me up quite well with what we're going to talk about today. And so this presentation does include all of the performance measures that were adopted by the board back in April of this year. At the same time, you adopted a revised vision, the guiding principles, goals, and objectives. Then we spent a lot of time walking through each of the individual measures and the proposed targets before you adopted them. That's a link to that presentation in March that actually gives you the detail of each of the measures. At the end of this, too, I'll just give you a quick update on the requirements and the status of the 2025 biennial report on surface transportation and some of those requirements and how this fits into that. So with the following slides, they're related to and organized by goal area. So each of the, we'll kick off with the goal. And then each slide individually will have the objectives and the individual measures. Along with that is the current performance. The current performance is based either on calendar year 24 or fiscal year 25 with a few exceptions where we don't have more recent data. The target that you all adopted back in April. The trend, what direction do we want things to be going into, and then a performance indicator. Over there on the right, we talk about with the green that, yes, the target has been met. Yellow, orange, we've missed the target, but we think we're making progress based on the trends and the data and what we know about what's happening with each of those individual measures. And then sometimes we have where the target has been missed, and we really need to do some more focus on that area to maybe help improve that performance moving forward. So again, some of our data is, well, actually one other thing that I'd like to make it clear is that some of these come from federal requirements. So some of these are measures that you all have already seen. For example, the first set are related to safety measures that you all also see on an annual basis. And then there's some others throughout the deck. So you guys have had some experience in setting targets in some other performance areas. So kicking off with safety and the goal A. Obviously, safety is, you all have prioritized that as very important to us. And the goal is to reduce our fatalities and serious injuries on the highways. And again, these are measures that you all actually look at annually and adopt by July each year. So what we've got here are the performance from calendar year 24, the targets that have been adopted by you both as this action and as a prior action, our trends, and then that performance over on the right. And what we see on our fatalities and fatalities rate, which is the fatalities per 100 million VMT, vehicle miles traveled, that we've got a yellow indicator there. What we saw was a peak in 2022, and then we've seen a decline in levels of the fatalities and the fatality rate since 2022. We also see that currently within 2025, that we seem to be trending downward as well. So we've kind of a subjective determination here that we haven't met the target, but we're trending in the right direction. The serious injuries and the serious injury rate, A1, 2. In both cases, we've missed the target. On the serious injuries, we're kind of flat, bouncing around a little bit, so we're not seeing any progress really there. But based on the rate measure, which is normalizing that, we're seeing that increase in VMT without that increase in serious injuries, that we are making progress toward that target. Our non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries is also red. We continue to be challenged there. We saw a peak in pedestrian fatalities. It's declined, but our serious injuries are still up, so the numbers overall as a combined measure are still challenging.
And this is the hardest thing in a way that we do, right? Because you can do all the stuff you do with engineering, you can do all the stuff you do with safety improvements, you can message and sign, and you can do all this stuff. You can do it perfectly, and not that we do it perfectly, but you can do it perfectly in theory. And it doesn't necessarily change this, meaning it helps it not be worse than it would have been, than it is, but it doesn't necessarily take us off the trend line that we don't like. And it just makes me think about it. It's going to get great debate in the session coming up, and it's going to be interesting to watch. Seeing the media about the automated speed enforcement and work zone in New Kent County. Numbers of citations, I'm not sure what the proper word is because it's sort of a number of tickets that are given out in a week. Thousands, 10,000 in a week, 15,000 in a week. in one stretch of road, 10 miles long, 15,000, right? And you gotta be at least 10 miles over the speed limit to get one. And it's a work zone. What do you do with that? Well, I'll tell you, it's coming down. The gap is much more clogged up now in that section than it was before. People are getting they're getting the message. But that's enforcement, right? And we don't control enforcement. And we are short with enforcers. The captain knows this across the Commonwealth. And we as a society have denigrated them to a bit. And so how do you do this? You know, do you do, I mean, is it important to enforce this? You know, if we want people to slow down, you know, there's two really schools of thought. Either you make the road so you can't go that fast, or you enforce it to the limit that you want it to be enforced. And I prefer it to be enforced to the limit we want it to be enforced to, and have people that just follow the rules, right? And yet, 10,000, and listen, they're not all out-of-state folks. These are mostly Virginians that are getting these citations, right? And some people see it as a cash grab, and I understand that. But for goodness sakes, it's not a mile over or 2 miles over or 5 miles. It's at least 11 or more, right? And there are people at 90 and 100, and we've seen stuff in the news on that, right? So how do you know, in DMV, which is under my purview, but not this purview here, not this board's, they're the safety people in Virginia, and they're working as hard as they can to bring awareness to this. And we pump a bunch of money into safety programs. We pump money into local law enforcement to have more enforcement. And yet here we are, right? And so it's going to be interesting to see how the General Assembly addresses this in the next session. And, you know, I don't know what your anecdotal info, but I said this before. The average speed on the interstates that I drive on is like at least 10 miles over the speed limit. If you're going to speed limit, man, you're like just being blown by most people. And so, you know, how do we deal with this? And speed, I mean, there's three pieces here: speed, distractive, and no seatbelt. Distracted or impaired, and no seatbelt, right? So the no seatbelt just has more serious consequences, doesn't make you wreck or anything, but the speed and the impairment does. And, you know, so we're just battling this whole societal problem and sort of bearing it on our backs, and yet we don't have all the levers that we need to control this. And as you can see, you know, 918. I've told you this before, but I used to, when I first got this job, where's the deputy commissioner? She was like reporting to me like on a daily basis on this. And I finally got the message, you know, she didn't send the message, but I received the message that it's 2.5 every day, right? Every single day of the year. And I don't know what to do with that data. That's what it is, and what do you do about that, right? How do you fix that? And I'm an old school guy, and to me, it's enforcement. It's education and it's enforcement. And we don't do the education real well, and that's something we need to do better. The A2I down there at the bottom, we're just asking for it, you know? I've been on this tirade before, but we keep shoving all these other modes of transportation into a roadway system, and we don't have good rules that are communicated well, and people don't know what to do and how to do it. It's just not good, and we've got to get a handle on this. This isn't a Virginia problem. This is a United States problem. But I bet you I could show you a bunch of road markings right now and ask you what they meant, and I bet you we'd all fail the test. because nobody told you what they meant, and looking around the room, most of us didn't get our driver's license last year, right? I got mine 53 years ago. And guess how many people have told me what the law changes are and have done any kind of update, any kind of information, any kind of, God forbid, re-upping your driver's license. But there's a lot that's changed in 53 years in the rules of the road and who's on the road and how you deal with it. And we're just continuing to pump those people in, bikes and peds and scooters and, all that. And that's not a bad thing, but it's a bad thing when you don't do it properly. You don't educate properly and people don't understand how it works. So it's driving that number. It's totally predictable. So we got to do a better job as a society, but VDOT only has so many levers that they can pull here. And so it's really frustrating to watch this. And we just better. And the automated enforcement thing it can be troubling if, nobody wants government looking at everything they do all the time, all day long. People don't want that, right? But the counter to this is, let's go take somebody like Captain Byers, put him through a lot of training, spend a lot of money to teach him how to deal with all the things he needs to deal with in his job in law enforcement, and then buy him an expensive car that's outfitted with all this gear and give him all this gear, right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars in training and gear, and then just put him on the side of the highway with a little radar gun and go zzz. And that's how we're using all that technology and all that gear and all that training, and that's how we do it. And so it's a tough problem. It's a tough problem. And that's not the best use of all that training and all that other equipment that they have to deal with everything else that's important in their lives, in their work lives. So it's a difficult situation. There needs to be a balance, in my view. And the General Assembly, I'm sure, will continue to address that. It's frustrating because I don't know what we can do to fix it at this body, and yet we got to try, right? So I just keep talking about it as much as I can, and hopefully people that are smarter than me will figure it out. But at the end of the day, folks, if you don't, I've been through this drill. I've said a number of times. I was not on the top 10 list of great driving records as a kid. I went through the demerit system and had to go to a couple group interviews. And, once I got my head screwed on half right, and I realized that not only was it unsafe, but that it was costing me in my wallet, I learned to stop doing it, and I don't do that anymore. But it was the enforcement and the reality of what was occurring to me that made me change my ways. And hopefully I'd have matured and done it anyway at some point. But the court system and the insurance companies helped me along the way pretty smartly. And I decided it was a really dumb thing to keep doing, so I quit doing it. And so I'm a simple guy that says, you got a carrot and you got a stick. And sometimes you need to have the enforcement stick or you're not going to change your behavior. And, that's just the way that it is. In society, we have people that will do things they shouldn't do unless they're having to face the consequences. And that's where we are. Quiet and move on, Ms. Dunlop. But it's frustrating. And the frustrating part, but those are people.
Yes, thank you. This obviously is very sobering. I'm wondering, however, Mr. Chairman, if we can look at this in a more granular way. For instance, A1I is annual fatalities. How about annual fatalities due to road construction? versus annual fatalities due to other reasons.
We do break it down. We have very detailed
Yeah,
analysis.
I think it would be very helpful for us here who are concerned about roads to know that and maybe help
On
inform
road
others.
construction, I'm not exactly sure what you're saying. Are you saying in work zones?
No, I'm saying if it's because of the way the road is constructed that there was a fatality,
There's very little of that, ma'am.
I'm sure that
There's
that is
very
correct, and I
there's-
think that's important to
There's
know.
very little of that. The issue here, and I'm sure there's some, but I've told this story before, and I'll change it a little bit so it's not so direct. But you got to stretch a road that's hilly and curvy, and it's 40 miles an hour. But he drives 100 and kills himself. Road's fault? Did we not design it? We didn't design it for 100. You're right. We didn't design it for 100. We didn't design it for 60. We designed it for 40, and that was the speed limit. And somebody chose to do something, right? That's way too often. I'm sure that there's some things that perhaps could have been done better. You know, there's the whole guardrail thing that we've been dealing with, where, there've been some issues with guardrails across the country, and or they create problems when they're hit because they're not doing what we thought they should do or what they should do. I'm sure there's some of that. But most of this, I hazard to say it's 95% driver behavior. There's environmental things that happens, but when you look at the data, and I look at a lot of this data, the impairment, the speed, the distracted, the no seatbelt. You got rid of those, that fatality number would go away. And what I am so excited about, and I wish I could see, is when we get to that level 5, that number is going to go precipitously down because you're no longer worried about the driver behavior. The computer's the driver. The computer does what the computer does. It follows the 1 zeros, and it does what it does. And that's what and you don't have to worry about behavior anymore. So it won't speed. It won't do the risky things. It will do what it's supposed to do, and all the behavior issues will go away, and this whole thing will be resolved. But in the meantime, we got human beings that make decisions, and when they make bad decisions, bad things happen. And the only way I know how to deal with that is to have consequences of enforcement along the way to try to get them to stop doing that, like it made me stop doing it before something bad happens.
Well, I concur entirely with your remarks. I just think it would be helpful for us here on the board to see that breakdown in the objective listing so that we have in our own minds what are the fatalities that are due to the road building situation versus other causes.
Well, I'm just giving you the answer. I'll be happy to show you the data.
Yeah, well, I think it would be helpful
It's
to have it on a
insignificant.
chart like
It's
this.
insignificant.
Yeah. And then the second thing I would just mention,
Let me rephrase that. Anything is significant, but the number, the percent, is very small.
good. That's good to know.
I'm happy to show you that. Yes, ma'am.
The other point that I would just make, and this just occurred recently in my life, but I was driving down a road and I came to rumble strips. It causes you immediately to wake up and pay attention to what's going on the road and to slow down. And I'm just wondering if these, and I've seen this on highways when you're coming to an exit that's a short exit, if there are some things like this that would help in travel lanes where there's construction going on, just to bring drivers to an immediate awareness that something is changing. I don't know if that will make an impact, but, between little rumble strips and bigger rumble strips or road bumps, it really can affect the way a driver is thinking. And I know that enforcement is important, and I know that fines will make a difference, but some of these things might be considered in certain locations.
I don't want to drag us down a long discussion here, but, on some of these highways, take 460, for example, as you're coming into some of these towns where the speed limit reduces a bunch, you'll have a rumble strip to get your attention. The work zone thing, like, when you have 500 yellow lights and signs and flashing and barrels and everything else, they know there's a work zone that's Dunlop. They know, right? And so, not an aware construction zone. It's perfectly obvious that it's a construction zone. Now, what do they do about that, and how do we get their attention? Do we smack them with a rumble strip, if you will? Perhaps. But I don't think it's awareness. It's just bad decision-making. But let's continue.
I would be curious, which ones are on purpose? The number of,
What?
which ones are on purpose?
I don't know what that means.
Suicide by vehicles is a
Well,
real
we
thing.
don't have a lot of that. We don't see a lot of that.
Nothing we're gonna do for it.
But we don't see a lot of that. Ms. Law,
Mr.
you
Secretary.
want to join the party?
Yeah, absolutely.
Feeling left out?
A little bit. I just wanted to remind the board, especially the new members, that every spring, May, June time period, we have a special dedicated presentation on safety, which we get into some of the information you're
detail.
talking about and dig into it deeper. Kind of a joint presentation usually with DMV.
Thank you. All right, Margie, if you can continue, please.
Thank you. So moving from highway to transit, we also have similar measures where we look at the count measure versus a rate. And so the rates are based on the vehicle revenue miles. And what we have our first one for our transit fatalities and the fatality rate. One, it's a pretty small number that we have on an annual basis, which is good. Obviously, the target of 0 may be a little aspirational, but is something that is deemed, potentially accessible in a sense. So our performance indicators just show that while we haven't met the target, we are trending in the right direction. We've had a peak in 2021 of 6 fatalities in 1 year. Also important to note on this slide is our data only goes through 2023. This data comes from the National Transit Database, and this is the most current data that we have available. So we also have the last one. Well, then we have our transit injuries and injuries per 100,000 vehicle revenue miles. Also, the transit injuries has met the target. The rate measure did not, but it's really kind of more of a math equation here that it's very, very close, so it probably could have been a yellow in this situation, but we did not meet it for the rate measure. Obviously, since COVID has passed, revenue miles are up, and so I think it's just a matter of trending in the right direction here. Our safety events and the safety events per revenue vehicle mile have not met the target there either. And so we had a big drop during COVID in 2020, obviously, as the vehicle revenue miles went down. We've returned essentially to pre-COVID levels. And so right now, to address this issue, DRPT continues to work with the transit providers. And there's also some funding programs through TRIP, like TRIP has been expanded to allow funding for various safety aspects that a transit agency is responsible for. I think one thing here that's different from the highway side is that DRPT is not directly responsible for these measures. It's the individual transit agencies. And so these are new measures that DRPT is, that was tracking that the board has adopted, whereby we're taking kind of an aggregation of the numbers across all those transit agencies to help monitor the status and progress that they're making. And just wanted to highlight, because there are so many efforts both by DRPT and VDOT to improve the outcomes on all of these programs and the goal areas that we present. So here's just a couple quick examples. The Safety Service Patrol, they provide a lot of value on our interstate systems where they are available. A lot of it might just be incident clearance so that we're preventing secondary crashes and things like that. TRIP, again, as a funding program, has been expanded to include public safety equipment, public safety planning, and training. And so there's different things that we can do to help improve our safety outcomes.
Folks, let me say something. We lost a service safety patrol person Vehicle came across a bunch of lanes, hit the patrolman and the motorist both. Accident, the incident involved both of them, and the service safety patrol person was killed. And the vehicle had safety issues associated with it. And this is another thing that, and I'll just say it, you know, there's been a lot of discussion. We've been trying to get rid of the license plate decals because they're functionally, they're a lot of money for. But there's been some folks that want to get rid of the safety inspections on vehicles. I go back to my youthful stories, and if you ever had been, you know, if you've never been in a situation where you haven't had a lot of money, when you don't have a lot of money or enough money, you have to make choices, and you see it every day with people, and I've been there. And if your brakes cost $600 to get them fixed, but they still work, but the safety, they've gone past the safety period, there are a lot of people out there that will just hit the brakes earlier and hit them harder, right? And if the tire's bald but it still rolls down the highway, they won't fix the tire. And in this case, that's one of the things that was a couple of them. And so there'll probably be some moves which may make some sense to have new cars have a, you know, some deferral period that you don't have to do it every year for a new car, maybe not, but these things go 100 miles an hour and they're heavy and they need to be safe. And that one wasn't, and it contributed mightily to that person losing their life. So, advertisement, but I just needed to say it.
Moving to Goal B, you heard a lot yesterday from Mr. Gregg about the comprehensive review in our maintenance and operations program. So obviously, it's very important for us to maintain the assets that we have and manage that infrastructure across the Commonwealth. So and on B11, yesterday you heard from Mr. Gregg. All of these numbers match his for the calendar year fiscal year for the bridges and calendar year data for the pavements. The secondary column for B11 for calendar year 24 did not meet the secondary target. It has since met the target. So that really could be green over there on the right. It's yellow just because that one measure didn't meet the target at the time. So bottom line here is you all heard a lot from Mr. Gregg. I don't know that I need to go into much more, but we are meeting the targets and doing well. Switching now to...
This is something we can control, right? And we can almost control it totally. Now, we have funding issues, right? We have budgets, but we could put all our money into we could put all our money into maintenance and none into construction. We have the ability to do that. It'd be a good thing. We don't need to do that, but we do have some pretty strong control over those performance metrics, those targets and achieving them. Thank you, Ms. Ray.
So as you all approved and adopted quantitative targets, you also did some that were more qualitative in nature. So these are two qualitative measures, just making sure that what's happening on an annual or biannual basis, you all are being updated on as per the policy, and that those things have been occurring in a timely manner. So I'm switching now to the transit and rail side for a state of good repair. We have a couple of measures here. The first one is just looking at how are those revenue vehicles that are being managed by the transit agencies working. All the transit agencies that receive certain kind of money or of a certain size are required to develop transportation asset management plans. That's something that DRPT assists with, especially for those smaller agencies. So it looks like, we've obviously met the target and continue to move forward with that. For our transit facilities, the rating below 3.0 on the term scale. So the term is the Transit Economic Requirements model. It's essentially an assessment of the condition of the assets, but it's also a model that allows them to project what those needs are for the assets. B31, I think it's maybe that there's 33 facilities and only one of them is not meeting the target. So it's performing well, just with that one exception, and DRPT is working with that. Yes, Director Robinson.
There's 41 agencies and only one, right,
Apologies.
is not meeting.
Get 'em straight.
I appreciate it, thank you. Okay, and then the last one there is just the number of miles and Rail Preservation Fund investments. This one is a new measure, but it's also interesting from the perspective that it's application-based, and so sometimes there may not be sufficient number of applications, and so just the number of miles that may be invested on an annual basis is difficult to project based on those application programs. So while it's red right now, it is still being monitored and tracked. Again, this is a newer measure for DRPT to be monitoring, and so, and Director Robertson, I don't know if you had something else you wanted to add there. Okay. I think the big thing here too is that both, two of the grant programs, Merit and TRIP, can both be used to help them fund some of those things. And then I guess your rail grant programs. Okay, end of goal B is just a couple of highlights here. It's just here's a bridge replacement project that we have going on I-81. And then over on the right is the DeLong facility. This is a rail industrial access grant that you all would have heard about, but this is something that was done to help support the Port of Virginia as some of the strategic investments in that area. So moving to goal C, where we're looking at really trying to improve travel reliability and congestion so that we're encouraging our economic competitiveness, looking at other modes as well, and trying to encourage usage of that. The first two measures here are a couple of our federal measures. So we're looking at the percent of miles traveled that are reliable on both the interstate and the non-interstate systems. In these measures, again, are looking at the reliability or the variability in the travel time along these segments. And so what we're looking at here is the percentage, you look at the 80th percent travel times relative to the ratio to the 50th percent travel times. And you're looking at that on a segment level basis. So each segment that is less than 1.5 at that ratio gets summed together, and it's that percent of that total miles of the interstate that then are reliable. So clearly we've met the goal here, or the target for our interstate and non-interstate. COVID recovery, we saw some much improved reliability when travel was down, but things have moved back up, but we're still on the non-interstate system, still doing very well there for reliability. When we look at similar measures then on our transit systems, we're looking at transit and rail. So we're looking at our VRE, I'm going to lump together the VRE and Amtrak measures, just as far as those are our passenger rail services. And again, we have some on-time delivery issues that some of what's happening with the VPRA and the Transforming Rail in Virginia will help us improve some of those metrics as we address some of the congestion and bottlenecks that are occurring on those corridors. So I think that those numbers after those projects come online should improve. The last one then on Virginia Breeze, any congestion that's occurring on our interstates is also affecting Virginia Breeze. It's only one of the routes that is currently not meeting the target. Everything else is, and DRPT is anticipating a review of the routes and other things to try to help improve that performance. And then the last measure, obviously, we're meeting and doing well. The transit agencies are doing well. Freight is also very important to us, so we look at our freight measures. These, I said 80th over 50th. This is actually looking at some of your worst travel times, your 95th percent worst travel times relative to your free flow conditions. And so obviously the Truck Travel Time Reliability Index, we are meeting the target there. We did identify through the freight plan done several years ago that we had 16 bottlenecks, and during COVID we were doing quite well in those. We have since not done so well. There's been a lot of construction on our interstates, and so that's probably impacting this a bit. That freight plan is being reevaluated, and the bottleneck situation will be reevaluated as well. And so we look at transit efficiency and effectiveness. The first one isn't a measure that you adopted as a target, but it's important for the next three measures there, the next two measures related to our transit passengers per revenue vehicle hour and our revenue vehicle per mile. And the C3-1, we're trending in the right direction. You can see how close you are to the target, but we moved it to yellow just because we hadn't quite met the target yet. And then the transit passengers per revenue mile is green. C3-2 and C3-3 are two new measures that we are still looking at and don't have a lot of historical data on. And so I think this is going to be a good measure for us to use moving forward. Just again, a couple of highlights of what's going on around the Commonwealth as far as some projects that hopefully will help improve congestion and reliability. The one on the left, New River Valley, is just recent announcements this summer about that project. Long Bridge obviously is underway. The Rappahannock River crossings really addressed a bottleneck. It's largely complete and is really improving some congestion and reliability issues there. And then with our transit ridership, most transit agencies around the state are looking at some increases in ridership through time. Goal D is looking to integrate our multimodal transportation system. And in some cases, we're looking at kind of reliability or redundancy. So how do we address some of that? D1 was a challenging measure to address the objective. And right now, what everybody agreed to was that we would provide a list of projects that are helping to address multimodal redundancy around the state. So that is not provided today. It is included as an attachment to the biennial report that you all will see eventually. Okay, and then the second one below is just the increase in bus ridership. It's difficult to measure directly increases in ridership. And so what we look at is ensuring that the facilities that help support transit utilization are in good condition so that theoretically people are encouraged to use those transit options when they have good facilities. And then from the freight side, we look at the number of new carloads that are generated through DRPT's grant programs. That's the freight, the rail industrial access, and the rail preservation fund. And so we can see the number of new carloads that are added each year, along with the target, and that we're doing quite well there. And then other support for economic development. We have, you guys heard yesterday, an economic development access program. This is the D41 for VDOT and DRPT are new measures. I think we underestimated the target because it wasn't something we'd been tracking before. Clearly, we're doing a lot to try to encourage application for those grant programs. D41 really is, it's a component of the measure that was on the prior slide, but through the Rail Industrial Access Program, how are we increasing both the rail throughput as well as, or the new carloads as well as new jobs? And so we're doing well there. Again, the new jobs is a little bit variable based on the applications that come in, but over 5 years, I think we've added about 600 new jobs through the Rail Industrial Access Program. So a couple of highlights here, GRTC here in Richmond area has a plan right now where they're looking to improve their infrastructure around the city. A lot of it gets into bus stop improvements. We have the Delmarva Central Railroad, which that was a rail industrial access grant, and that's supposed to provide some more reliable service to their customers. And then the last one there is the Patton Logistics Group, where you recently awarded an EDA grant to Pulaski to help facilitate this. And our last goal area is environmental, where we want to and make sure that we are doing things that are going to enhance the quality of life and preserving our agricultural, natural, historical, and cultural resources. And so we have two more qualitative measures, ensuring that as we look at projects, we are conducting and completing the analyses that are required for NEPA, where there's a federal and state environmental review requirement. And then there are also national ambient air quality standards and making sure that we're in compliance with those. And this is just an example of the commuter choice program that's funded through Virginia and MBTA that helps provide options or, that supports those multimodal projects that provide options for non-SOV travel, so theoretically improving our air quality. Focusing on the 2025 biennial report. So our office is responsible for developing it, along with these measures, targets, all the data. We work very closely with VDOT and DRPT to pull these reports together, and VPRA. VPR can't be ruled out of here. And so the purpose of this is to provide transparency and accountability. And this is through the Code of Virginia. And so this report has to be provided to the Governor, the General Assembly, and to you all. And those results that are presented today will be included in that biennial report, along with the trends. I know you all are very interested sometimes to see the trends. Just very quick note, too, on the trends, we do include 6 years of data so that we include COVID, so that you can really see what's happened since COVID. When you take COVID out there, it doesn't really always make the trend as clear. But these boxes all highlight the code requirements. So we have to include the list of projects that are modified from the prior fiscal year. This is really related to Smart Scale. The second one to the right of that is what happened with round 6 of Smart Scale, or that most recent round, down to the bottom left. And the middle one is what's the status of the VTIB, the Virginia Transportation Infrastructure Bank, and the Toll Facilities Revolving Account. So that report is in its final stages of review, and we'll be able to send you all a link in the not-too-distant future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Good work. Really appreciate what you've done. Any comments or questions? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Our next item on the agenda to wrap up our workshop meeting are the director's items. Ms. Tiffany Robinson, do you have any items for us this morning?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Everyone has my report, so it's been a long couple days, and I won't read you the details, but just to highlight a couple things, particularly in personnel news. For our Northern Virginia members, we recently interviewed many internal and external candidates for a new director of our NOVA transit programs and promoted from within. Sarah Hussein was here yesterday, and I was going to introduce her, but we didn't get to it, so I hope you all have a chance to meet her in the future. She's going to be great. I also wanted to just give a quick update on our merit review and analysis. We are in the midst of a 45-day public comment period that is required by statute on a couple options that we are looking to bring to you for policy changes. We plan to bring that to you in December. We're going to have a public webinar and get all the materials to each of you very, very early so that you have time to think about it and digest and ask any questions before that meeting. And I'm happy to talk to anyone individually if necessary. And finally, yesterday, the secretary applauded VDOT on their reduction of regulatory burdensome documents and guidance. And I just wanted to highlight that DRPT was actually exempt from the second level of requirements from our Office of Regulatory Reform because we had already exceeded those goals. We are very small, but we consolidated and eliminated a ton of guidance documents and regulatory burdens. So I'm proud of my team for that. Wanted to acknowledge them.
Let me jump in on that. They've done an excellent job. They are, to the director's point, they're small, so their impact to the corpus is not as significant, but it's certainly significant. All the agencies in my secretariat have done a very good job eliminating unnecessary, duplicative, and bad regulation, or just too many words. So we'll have an update on that. The governor will be talking about what we achieved statewide probably in the next week or two or so, and you're going to see some really good performance out of DRPT, VDOT, and the other agencies in our state. Very proud of the work that you've done, Director and Commissioner. Thank you for doing that. Director, you finished?
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner.
Mr. Secretary, members of the board, I do have a couple items for you this morning for your information. What's in your package, I've got three elements. One is to bring you up to speed on an agreement that we have entered into with the Federal Highway Administration, the City of Richmond, the Virginia State Historic Preservation Officer, as well as other members, to be able to advance or FHWA, to be able to advance the reconstruction activities down here on Broad Street for the CSX overpass right here in Tobacco Row. I do need it is in your package. You can take a look at the memorandum of agreement that has been executed. It is a delegation of responsibilities that the board gave to the commissioner in 2015, so this is just for your information purposes only. Two other items, you have initial financial plans for two projects. One with regard to the Hampton Roads Express Lane project in Tidewater, to be able to talk to you about the risks on that project, but also the financial resources that are being applied to that. These are required for your review and information for any projects valued over $100 million. The second one is the I-81 widening down or up in Winchester, or in the Stanton District, mile marker 242 to 248. We have so many 81 projects right now underway. But again, this is another initial financial plan for your review. If you have questions or comments, certainly you can bring them back to me at a later time. The final commentary that I have is with regard to a letter that communicated to you, I believe, on the October 3rd, with regard to the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program and the interim final rule that the U.S. Department of Transportation issued. As you recall, Mr. Laird brought up a question with regard to what are we doing with regard to the outstanding court cases that I believe in Tennessee had. At that time, I said we were not pivoting off of our position on setting goals and enforcing those simply because the Code of Federal Regulations existed at that time. Well, the Code of Federal Regulations have changed, so we have pivoted as I said that we would. In essence, what this memorandum did was to instruct our agency that we would be removing all goals from all active federal aid projects, as well as not setting any goals moving forward until such time as those DBEs could recertify themselves on a case-by-case basis to show that they had social and economic disadvantage and not ones that were based upon race or gender. And so we have work that is underway right now to be able to identify what that program is going to look like. Any recertification has to be done by the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity, which we are having conversations with. I should point out that any changes to any program that would set forth a recertification opportunity for DBEs to be reconsidered needs to be reviewed by the Federal Highway Administration and ultimately approved by the US DOT. So there is a little bit of a process that we need to go through. We are having active conversations with SBSD and advancing ideas to be able to formulate what that recertification will look like and what that criteria is for the US DOT to consider. Now, moving it forward, to be able to set goals on future projects, we're going to need to have a population of DBEs that we can work from. It's just not, we'll get one and then start resetting goals. We need to reformulate the program and restructure how many people are eligible for the DBE program. So there's a little bit of work yet to be done. This is something that certainly is very fluid situation at this point in time. I would anticipate more updates as we move forward. It's not going to be solved overnight. We are looking at what other states have done. Ohio has been pointed out as a potential where they have just created the DBE program to be for small businesses and there's some definitions around what that looks like. We are actively looking at that and taking that under consideration to potentially take that same approach. But that also requires some conversation with SBSD, and then ultimately, as I said, through USDOT to be able to advance what this looks like. So more to come. I don't have any other answers at this time other than we have an interim final rule. I have issued guidance. We are under that guidance today, and we'll bring that back once we get a program that we can update and send to USDOT. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Any comments, questions? We're going to move through that process that the Commissioner spoke about expeditiously. You know, things are changing and we're trying to keep up with them, but we want to have our programs in place as quickly as we can have them in place. So we'll do the very best we can to move through that expeditiously. Lots of moving parts going on in transportation in Virginia. I would tell you that in general, Virginia's in a really good place in terms of its growth and its opportunity. As the governor has been touting, we're, I think, at $135 billion and counting, maybe a little bit more now, of investment over our course of our administration. And that's just record amounts that we've never seen before. And so, you know, transportation's critical to that. We continue to have, we continue to be a leader in transportation in the nation. We continue to get high marks in transportation and in our survey data and people that look at that. You know, I think we were number 3 last time, and that was infrastructure, and that was because of energy, not because of transportation. But as I have said to you, and you all travel just like I do, Virginia's road system and its transit system is pretty darn good relative to what we want it to be. It's not perfect. Still got a lot of work. Thank you all for all the work that you've done. And we've got a number of meetings left before this administration will exit, and a new one will be here. And we got lots of work to do, so I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna move to the action meeting right now. So thank you. Meeting of the workshop is adjourned, and I'm going to begin the call to order the action meeting. The agenda has been and package has been communicated to you previously, and the first item on the agenda is public comment. I don't have anybody that's signed up that I know of, but is anyone from the public would like to make any comments? Thank you very much. Hearing none, we're going to move to approval of minutes. They were distributed in their package. Is there a motion to approve? There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Ms. Sellers moves, Mr. Good seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? All right, we'll move to item number 1. Mr. Hofrichter, action on discontinuance in secondary system of state highways, Route 708 in Russell County, located in the Bristol District.
Yes, sir. Route 708, this is a 0.4 of a mile segment of roadway. The property around it has been acquired by the Department of Conservation and Recreation, and they approached VDOT and said, hey, can we get this out of the system, just get it discontinued? We worked with the county. County agreed with discontinuance, so we bring that to you for a vote.
Any comments or questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Secretary, I move approval.
Mr. Folks moves. Is there a second? Ms. Dunlop seconds. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Item number 2, Mr. Hofrichter, action on abandonment in the primary system of state highways previously discontinued portion of Route 57 in Henry County located within the Salem.
Sir, that's the wrong agenda.
It's the wrong agenda.
That's the item that was substituted.
Ah, they tricked me. Very tricky. Well, let me see here. So that one's gone,
That one's gone.
and we're putting the land use regulation?
Yes.
So we're gonna look at, is everybody up to speed on this? Does your agenda say the same thing my agenda says?
You have an updated agenda in your package.
Ah, tricked me.
making sure you're awake.
I guess the Bible's not the Bible, is it? Pardon me. Item number 2, Mr. Hofrichter, action on regulatory reduction efforts, removal of document incorporated by reference from 24 VAC 30-91. Mr. Hofrichter.
Yes, sir. This is the presentation I gave yesterday. It's removing the AASHTO Bridge Design Guide from 1998 to
Your motion to
1996.
approve. Ms. Sellers moves. Is there a second? Ms. Green seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much, Mr. Hoffer.
Thank you.
Mr. Gregg. Now, item number 3, action on commemorative naming at the request of Fairfax County, the section of Route 2948, John Moore Drive, from the intersection of State Route 236, Little River Turnpike, to the intersection of State Route 244, Columbia Pike, Fairfax County, as the sole boulevard, quote unquote, located within the Northern Virginia District. Commemorative naming, Mr. Gregg.
Thank you, sir. The Fairfax County Board of Supervisors enacted a resolution on September the 15th, 2025, to recognize the lasting contributions and strong community engagement of the Korean American community, whose civic, cultural, and economic presence is deeply rooted in the fabric of their region. Through community engagement and feedback, this section of John Moore Drive was identified as a corridor of appropriate context and symbol significance, and the name Seoul Boulevard was chosen to honor the capital city of Seoul, Korea, while representing the enduring pride and heritage of the Korean community. VDOT has not received any public comments on this proposal.
Mr. Grimm, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Ms. Sellers seconds. There's a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Mr. Heltzel. Item number 4, action on limited access control changes for I-81 Corridor Improvement Program, exit 143 to exit 150 improvements, Roanoke and Botetourt counties located within the Salem District. Mr. Heltzel.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This project length is about 8 miles. It extends from the 581-81 interchange up to the 220-81 interchange. The department has conducted its appropriate environmental and public involvement due diligence. We do have letters of endorsement from the 2 affected counties, and the Federal Highway Administration has approved these limited access modifications. With your favorable dispensation, the project will move quickly to design approval and then almost immediately to right-of-way. They are moving very quickly. I recommend your approval, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Smoot, do you recommend this approval?
Mr. Secretary, I move approval.
Thank you very much. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Folks seconds. There's a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you, Mr. Heltzel. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, sir.
Action on, item number 5, action on approval of amendments to the rules, regulations, and rates concerning toll and bridge facilities, 24 VAC 30-620.
Good morning,
Mr. Caudle, thank
Good
you.
morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As you may know, we took the tolls off Coleman Bridge on August 8th.
What a
As-
shame. It's a
As
terrible
a,
thing.
as a result, we have to amend the code section as referenced by the secretary and take out the toll rate schedule for the Coleman Bridge.
Ms. Sellers moves. Is there a second? Mr. Davis seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you, sir, very much. Item number 6, Ms. Farmer, action on Interstate 64 Hampton Roads Express Lanes Network Toll Facility Revolving Account Funding Authorization. Ms. Farmer.
Yes, sir. The proposed action was workshopped at last month's meeting related to the advancement of $28.1 million from the toll facility revolving account to support tolling-related construction on the Hampton Roads Express Lanes network.
Any questions? Mr. Coleman? Mr. Coleman makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Sellers seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much, Ms. Farmer. Ms. Monaco, item number 7, action on annual WMATA certifications. You tricked me. Thank God
We've got used to one-day meetings. She was here yesterday. So.
I'm sorry to blaspheme you, Ms. Monaco. It's Mr. Trogdon is here.
Yeah, You got a presentation last month. Don't know if there's any questions about
It's
that.
shocking. I expected her and I saw you. I was like,
I bet.
Any comments or questions on this? Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Minshew?
Approval of the item as presented.
Mr. Gribbin seconds. There's a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Item number 8, Mr. Todd, action on Purdue Rail Industrial Access application. Welcome, Mr. Todd. Nice to see you today.
Good morning. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Secretary, members of the board. Purdue Agribusiness has applied for $750,000 of the Rail Industrial Access Program to support their $60 million investment, generating over 7,000 new rail carloads. The project scored well in our application criteria, and I would recommend your approval.
Move approval.
Alderman moves. Is there a second? Dr. Smoot seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions?
Yes.
Abstain.
Abstain.
You make the motion?
You made the motion.
I'll move approval.
Let's back
Okay,
up.
I'm
Let's
sorry.
back up, Mr. Coleman.
I didn't vote.
Those two things, that doesn't matter. You did vote.
Okay.
You motioned. Are you abstaining, Mr. Coleman?
I am.
Ms. Sellers makes the motion. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Folks seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Mr. Coleman's abstaining. Mr. Coleman, you're abstaining, correct?
Yes, I am.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. All right. Ms. Pryor. Thank you, Mr. Todd. Good morning, Ms. Pryor. Welcome. Item number 9, action on FY 2026 to 2031 6-year improvement program transfers, August 16th, 2025 through September 19th, 2025. Ms. Pryor.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, members of the board. The monthly transfer report is included in your packet. I would point out that there is one project in Richmond District that is a district grant transfer that does exceed the threshold, and the additional information required is provided in attachment B. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Davis? Make a motion?
Yes, sir. Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Mr. Good?
Yes.
Mr. Davis moves, Mr. Good seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you, Ms. Pryor. Item number 10, action on addition of projects to 6-year improvement program for fiscal years 2026 through 2031. Ms. Pryor.
Thank you. In your packet, you'll notice Appendix A that shows a recommended amendment of 3 projects to the 6-year improvement program. One is in Bristol, one's in Fredericksburg, and the last is in Northern Virginia. And I recommend your approval.
Your motion to approve.
So moved.
Ms. Sellers moves. Mr. Lawson seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much, Ms. Pryor. Item number 11. Ms. Snyder, action on limited access control change Route 10, Town of Smithfield, located within Hampton Roads District. Welcome, good morning.
Good morning.
Hope
Thank
you're
you.
well.
Yes, I have one request today. It is from a landowner in the town of Smithfield along Route 10, requesting a break in the limited access to support development of their adjacent parcel. Town of Smithfield endorses this break. VDOT has reviewed, and we recommend your approval.
Mr. Coleman.
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Mr. Lawson seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much, Ms. Snyder. Appreciate it. Mr. Lawson. Item number 12. Action on Governor's TPOF project funding.
Yes, we have an item before you today is related to the TPOF project that was presented to you yesterday. This is for the Williamsburg Transportation Arrival Center. You saw the presentation from the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation and the City of Williamsburg. The project will provide significant improvements into I'll just call it traffic management within Colonial Williamsburg, providing dedicated areas for bus drop-off and pickup, additional parking, and really support the expanded use and visitation that's happening in the Colonial Williamsburg area. As mentioned, this is a $12.7 million project. The request or the direction from the governor is to provide $5 million from the Transportation Partnership Opportunity Fund with the Williamsburg and their partners providing the remainder of the funding. So based on this, Mr. Secretary, I would seek your approval of the $5 million direction as requested by the governor.
Mr. Coleman.
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Ms. Dunlop seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Mr. Coker.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Apparently, I have an out-of-date agenda as well.
It happens. How we doing?
I'm doing excellent, sir. Thank you for asking.
How we doing?
We're doing very good
We're getting ready to
today.
find out, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go.
Mr. Secretary, members of the board, I have 8 projects for your consideration this morning. First up is Order N01 in the Fredericksburg District. This is UPC 111406. This is a bridge replacement project over Chapawamsick Creek in Stafford County. We received 4 bids. Low bidder was Archer Western Construction with a bid of $9.7 million. This is within range, and I recommend award.
Ms. Sellers moves. Is there a second? Mr. Coleman seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? All right, item number 2.
This is order number N0.
Number 3, excuse me, order number 3, Hampton Roads 59175.
Yes, sir. This is an intersection construction project in the city of Norfolk. Received 4 bids. Low bid from Branch Civil is $6.4 million. This is within range, and I recommend award.
Mr. Coleman.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Ms. Sellers seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you, Mr. Coker. Order number M85, Hampton Roads 126,950.
Yes, sir. This is a retaining wall remediation project in the city of Virginia Beach. We received 3 bids. Allen Myers was the low bid with $8.1 million. This is within range, and I recommend award.
Coleman.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Second. Ms. Sellers seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Order number N16 in the Salem District, item number 116199. Mr. Coker.
This is a northbound exit 162 acceleration lane extension project on I-81 in Botetourt County. We received 2 bids. A low bid from Crossroads Bridge for $6,025,000. So this is within range, and I recommend award.
Dr. Smoot.
Secretary, move approval.
We have a motion. We have a second from Ms. Dunlop. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Order number N17, Bristol, 121233. Mr. Coker.
This is a bridge rehabilitation project in Washington County. We received a single bid from WL Construction for $9.3 million. This is within range, and I recommend award.
Folks moves. Is there a second? Mr. Coleman seconds. Let Ms. Dunlop in here. Ms. Dunlop's going second. You've been active today, Mr. Coleman. You and Ms. Sellers got a little teamwork going over here.
Look out.
All right, we got a motion and we got a second. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you, Mr. Coker. Order number N31 in Lynchburg, 124772. Mr. Coker.
Yes, sir. This is a state of good repair bridge replacement project in Charlotte County. We received 5 bids. Low bid from Burley Construction for $5.1 million. This is within range, and I recommend award.
Is there a motion to approve? Ms. Green motions, Mr. Laird seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Order number DB 135 in Hampton Roads, 119217. Mr. Coker.
Yes, sir. This is a I-64 Denby Boulevard Interchange Phase 1 project in the city of Newport News. We received 3 bids. The best value was from Shirley Contracting Company for $58.3 million. This is within range, and I recommend award.
Mr. Coleman.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Order number DB 137B, Bristol, 118662. Mr. Coker.
Yes, sir. This is the McMullen Bridge Replacement Project for Route 660 over Norfolk Southern Railroad in Smythe County. We received 2 bids. The best value is from Orders Construction Company for $18.9 million. This is within range, and I recommend award.
Mr. Folks, what county is this in?
Smith County, not Smythe.
Thank you very much.
Apologize, sir.
Mr. Coker, you went all the way to the end. You got everything in range, right?
Make a note.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Ms. Dunlop seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Mr. Coker, very well done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it. There is no new business that I know of to come before the board. I would like to thank you all for all the hard work that you do. We've had a good day and a half of a good work here on the Commonwealth, and y'all are to be commended. So I appreciate it very much. I wish you a safe time home, and we will have a meeting on November 10th. I know some of y'all can't make it, and I apologize for the short notice, but we appreciate those who can be here on the 10th. It will be a meeting that won't be too long, probably a couple hours or so, but it's a necessary meeting. So I appreciate you very much. This meeting's adjourned.